Good morning and welcome to P&B Sports. I'm Aroko Tom. Well, it was a goal fiesta at Old Trafford last night in one of the wildest Premier League games of the season. Manchester United FC Bournemouth shared the spoil in an 8-goal thriller, and that ended 4-4. Triple leads, late comebacks, tactical errors, tactical twists, breathtaking moments. This was football at its most unpredictable stage. Today we are breaking down every twist and turn from this unforgettable clash. And to help us analyze the tactics, the turning points, and the big decisions, I'm joined in the studio virtually by our football analyst and renowned sports analyst, Wisdom. Wisdom, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Tom. I'm doing very well. It's a great pleasure to be here again, as always, for us to, delve into everything.
Yes.
And all this introduction we did do for me, Tom. One day now, they will think I'm something else, and then I'm walking on the road before people will start backing and be shouting up and down.
No, you are a very important personality. So we can't water down your personality. Please stop being humble. Well done. Okay, so let's dive right into it. Yesterday we actually thought that we were going to see a Manchester United side that will be at least top 5. But it was a sorry goal fiesta. We saw several goals. They scored several goals, and they actually took several goals. In your opinion, what is the problem for Manchester United? Because how do you see a team? Sorry, it's echoing Wisdom at your end.
All right, okay. Let me quickly work on that.
Okay. Okay. So what do you think about the Manchester United team? What is your first opinion on that match and the way they handled the match?
Well, first of all, about the game, I have to say that was a very good game. Which was yesterday. I'm sure a lot of people know that game, and I myself enjoyed it. It was a very good game, barrage of goals. Something that you don't get to see of the Premier League 8 goals. But then, I think yesterday Man United's problem was one thing that has always been evident, and it's about converting your chances. How do you get to have as much as 25 shots, and you can't put the ball into the back of the net? In fact, I don't want to go into all of those statistics and numbers and all of that, but Man United in Europe, in the top 5 leagues this season, happens to be one of the teams that have created the most chances, that have had the most shots, that have, they've created goal scoring opportunities, but yet their conversion rate is one of the poorest when it comes to the top 5 leagues, and that is a big issue for Man United. I mean, for those that watched the game yesterday against Bournemouth, you would realize that in the first half, United should easily be 3-0 up in the first half against Bournemouth. 3-0 up, at least in the first half. But then, converting chances was still a problem for Man United. And at the end of the day, you saw Bournemouth, their first attempt on target in the first half. Antoine Semenyo found the back of the net to make it 1-1. United were lucky, Casemiro's header, sent them into halftime with the lead. But then you saw the second half, one more came in, their first 2 shots in the second half, the ball ended up in the back of the net. That is what you call clinicality. So that is Man United's biggest problem, and that is also what killed them yesterday in that game. Because United had chances, no doubt. That game should have easily, because I listened to Ruben Amorim's press conference, and the man just summarized everything. He said that game was decided in the first half. We lost the game in the first half, or we dropped those points in the first half. If we had converted our chances, we would not be having this conversation.
But I feel one problem for Manchester United, as some would say, is like you rightly said, the best teams in Europe are those that have highest conversion points for goals, people that score the most amount of goals. But looking at scoring the most amount of goals, how do you score a lot of goals when you are not able to defend those goals? We saw them score a lot of goals and actually concede a lot of goals, and especially with the way they play. You know that with the way Manchester United is playing this season, and from last season to this season, they've been transitioning to be more of an attacking side and less of a defensive side. But in your opinion, I think we sound like a broken record saying that Manchester United needs somebody to take up the role as a defensive midfielder. But in your own opinion, what do you think the problem is? Do you think that they are just trying to adjust to Amorim's style?
Well, I think trying to adjust to Ruben Amorim's style is probably an old conversation, to be honest. The players, I think they've adapted. I think everyone at Man United is in sync. They are on the same page with Ruben Amorim. When you talk about the defense of Man United, I mean, it still goes back to those silly errors that we always talk about in the past. And
Okay.
I was surprised yesterday. A lot of fans, football fans will always be football fans. After Man United considered the equalizer, a lot of people were starting to say, "Oh, I'm worried this, I'm worried that," and I was kind of pissed off. But then I realized that, oh, come on, wisdom, why are you wasting? You're wasting anger when football fans will always be football fans. You understand?
Yes.
Now, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is this: basic defensive errors. Now, first of all, you look at Luke Shaw, that goal that United conceded. Luke Shaw gave the ball away, right? And then he failed to pursue Antoine Semenyo to get the ball back. And then while that was happening, Aiden Haven, who should have approached, Antoine Semenyo when he was in the box, left him alone. In fact, he kept backing off until Semenyo released the shot and then found the back of the net. And then you talk about the second goal, it was slack defending from United. How can two defenders be there? Evan Nielsen passed through the middle. He got a through pass from Tevania through the middle in between two defenders. He turned and let the shot fly. That was poor defending from the centre backs. And then talk about the free kick. Okay, maybe the free kick of Tavania, I mean, maybe there was nothing anyone could do about that. But some said, oh, maybe Sané Lemans could have positioned himself better and all of that. But I don't really think that was a big issue. But then you talk about the fourth goal. The first goal has to be the most painful goal United considered yesterday. It was exactly the same pattern of the second goal that they conceded. The second goal they conceded, Ivan Nielsen's goal and Krupi's goal, was exactly the same thing. The through pass was played in between the two centre backs who were unable to close down the centre forward. How does that get to happen twice in a game and then you concede from the same pattern?
But I think there's something that we should take note of. Even I think one thing that we should take note of is Amorim actually shifted away from his usual back five, and he was that he just decided that, okay, we are going to shift away from the back five. And was that the right call to you? Because to me, I feel that might have actually been what affected them and made them concede a lot as well. Because you have a back five that, sorry to say, some might disagree, but the back five has been working. So what's changed? Why is it that when it was time for Bournemouth, we saw a change in that and he decided to change it? Because left to me, that was the reason why Manchester United conceded a lot of goals.
I agree with you, dear Tom, but at the same time, I have to say I beg to differ. Now, first of all, why do I agree with you? I agree with you because United, especially when they were trying to attack transition, United were playing more like a 4-4-2. Sometimes they would play a 4-2-4, and then the midfield is open. Because you notice that once Bournemouth had the ball, in fact, that game yesterday, the midfield was wide open for both teams.
No, zero balance. That midfield had zero balance.
Zero balance. Both teams just left the midfield. Everybody was trying to play attacking football, right? So for Man United switching to back four, anytime they switch to a back four, with Lenny Euro shifting down to the right hand side, it made everything open. It really, really made everything open. And that was in fact the reason Evanuson was able to pass through those centre backs to score the equalizer, and same thing for Krupi, because when you go to the back five, when in fact at times United don't play with the back five, they play with the back six, because you see the players lining up and then they form like a 6-3-1.
Yes, and
6-3-1.
sometimes the wingers fall back a little bit.
Yeah, so they lock up everywhere. But then the reason I also say I beg to differ about United conceding goals is this. Even before today, that Ruben Amorim decided, yesterday rather, that Ruben Amorim decided to try out a back four, United have been conceding silly defensive goals. Silly defensive goals, goals that on the norms, it should not be happening. Now, even Ruben Amorim attested to this. He said, opposition teams don't create chances against us. But yet, how the one that they will create, they will score, which is a problem. We as Man United, we create chances, but we can't convert them. We have a very good defensive structure, but yet, how will your opposition come and have, let's say for instance, 5 shots on target, and then they would end up scoring with 3 goals? How is that possible? So it's still, when you look at all of those United games, it still boils down to those silly defensive errors. It still boils down to the players switching off at the right moment. Now, you look at the goal they considered against Nottingham Forest when they were leading in that game, first half by 1-0. Second half started, United switched off. Nottingham Forest, within 5 minutes, made it 2-1. United had to score a late goal to rescue a point. And you look at the game against Everton, the one they lost, to 10-man Everton, where the players were backing up, and Kieran Trippier had a very wonderful, in fact, they had time and space at the wall to shoot, right? More defending, backing up from the striker. And then you look at the goal against West Ham United, it was just chaos on its own. And then you look at yesterday again, even before that, against Wolves, when United conceded against Wolves, it was poor defending against Wolves. And then their first shot on target coming from Belgrade. Poor defending again from Man United. So when you look at all of these things, it's not a case of because Ruben Amorim now decided to switch things up and that was why. No. Yes, because he switched things up, United were now open to opposition creating chances against them, which does not used to happen before. But that is not the reason why they conceded goals. United have been conceding goals like it's no man's business. Yeah. But that switch yesterday.
But sorry to cut you short there. When you see a team like Bournemouth, a team that is sitting comfortably at 13th in the table, and now you have a team like Manchester United, I think that was about 8th or 7th, that could have pushed themselves up to at least 5, because all they needed was at least one more goal or 2 more goals, and get your 3 points, and you'll be ahead of a team like Chelsea. And this left to me, I think this is a game that they should have easily taken. How would you say you want to finish top 5 or top 4 or top 7, and you are not picking up the crucial games that you should have finished, that you should have picked? But that's by the way. What do you think about Bournemouth's 4-2-3-1 formation? Because it looked extremely dangerous yesterday. Did United underestimate their wide threat? Because I think that formation actually helped them to spread wide, and it showed a lot of it showed Manchester United's weakness. But it seems like every team has been harboring on Manchester United's weakness lately.
No. I think for Bournemouth, I don't think United underestimated Bournemouth. But I mean, everyone knows that Bournemouth is an attacking team. Everyone knows that Bournemouth is very fluid with the way they play. But yesterday was very different. What makes yesterday very different? I think both managers, had it at the back of their mind that, see, you know what, this game, well, let's just go all in. Whatever the outcome is, we don't mind. They're going to keep attacking and attacking and attacking. And that was exactly what they did.
Mm.
And I have to say, the introduction of Tavernier into the midfield of Bournemouth, really, really spread this more, because normally Tavernier is not, a central midfielder, right? But
Yes.
Iraola had to shift him into central midfield, and then in a way they somewhat played a similar formation to Man United, more like a 4-2-4, because anytime they are attacking, Anthony Semenyo spreading on the wings there. Then you have Evan Nielsen at this playing the centre forward, Marcos Tavernier driving the ball, and then the right back Alan Smith, as well as the left back, Jimenez. It was more like a case of Bournemouth were just overloading with attackers. That is why when you see Man United hitting Bournemouth on the counter attack, it's as if there are no blue shirts back to defend, because it was a case of Bournemouth were like, you know what, this is massive attack, massive defense. Once we get the ball, everybody, let's go to Man United's half to front score. And I think that is one thing that we know Iraola for. His attacking blueprint is one that
Yeah.
has always been very, very evident. It's just unfortunate that they've not been winning games, but for yesterday against Man United, I'm sure their fans will be very happy. Anthony Semenyo, who hasn't scored in the last 6 games, found the back of the net. Evan Nielsen, who hasn't scored in what looks like forever, also found the back of the net. So yeah, it was a good performance by Bournemouth overall, because a lot of people have focused on Man United's performance and forgot the fact that it was really Bournemouth that really, really put up a good show for Man United.
Okay. So let's look at something that I think one thing about Manchester United that we have to give kudos to them for is that they are transitioning into a team that doesn't just use one tactic. I think it's a team that actually reads their opponent and adjusts to the opponent. We can see that they use set pieces, they use different tactics to make sure that they put that ball at the back of the net. So what is your opinion? Should we tag them just for one goal? Should we tag them the set piece FC of yesterday just for that one goal that he had? I think that was Bruno Fernandes, if I'm correct, with the free kick.
Yeah, I mean, Ruben Amorim, that is the issue with the media. When Ruben Amorim came in, no one was listening to what he was saying. Everyone was just trying to push an agenda. In fact, it got to a time I myself, I somewhat fell for those agenda, thinking Amorim wasn't, the proper manager. I was thinking he wasn't good enough until, I took a step back and I decided to listen to Ruben Amorim. I had to go watch some of his interviews again, where he explained a lot of things, and then I understood what he was trying to do. First of all, for set pieces, it is a great job that Amorim is doing in that aspect. Same with his assistants and his set piece coaches and all of that. Now he noticed that scoring goals from open play was a huge problem for his players, and they decided to rely on set pieces, and those set pieces have been working very well. United, I mean, I'm sure by now everyone would have seen the stats. The team with the most goals from set pieces this season. That is good. Kudos to Man United. And by the way, that free kick from Bruno Fernandes was 100 over 100. That was sublime.
Fantastic.
And yeah, and then you also talk about his flexibility. Now, when Ruben Amorim came in, he started with the 3-4-2-1 formation, and everybody was like, "Oh, back three is the problem." Oh, blah blah blah. Switch to 4-3-3. You remember the time where the media was trying to push that narrative, and Ruben Amorim made a statement. He said, "Back three, back four, back five, back six." He said that is not a problem. He said even in sporting, he still adapted. You can play, but the quality of players he has, he can play a 4-3-3, he can play a 4-2-3-1, he can play a 4-4-2. But before he would change that formation, his players must have learned the basics of football. And what is the basics of football? The basics of football is that you must fight for every ball. You must play with passion. You must be willing to die for the badge. He said, until I sit up for my players, there is not formation is nothing. If you like, play with the best formation in the world and the players who understand the basics of football, you are not going to do anything. So that was what Amorim was emphasizing on, but nobody wanted to listen to that. And I mean, Amorim didn't make things easier for himself, because then he wasn't winning games. So if he was winning games, maybe the media would have heard him. But
Yeah.
now that things are starting to turn around, maybe people are starting to see it, right? So yesterday, when he switched to that formation, a lot of people were surprised. Oh, Amorim playing with a back four, interesting. But he has always said it. He said, when the time is right, I will change. In fact, now that Brian Mbeumo and Amad Diallo, as well as Mazraoui, will be going to the AFCON, Ruben Amorim has hinted it over the past couple of weeks that he might be switching formation. In fact, when he was asked about Kobe Menu, he said, who knows? Maybe I might play with a 4-3-3. You don't know, right?
Yeah.
So it's good. And most of the players, in fact, during the when Man United play with their usual back three, playing the 3-4-2-1, you realize that in between the games, there are times where Man United switch to a back four, but people don't know. And yesterday, I think it was very, very evident. In fact, yesterday was probably the most evident one for Man United, because United would start the game with a back three, and then as the game goes on, when they are trying to attack, they would adapt. Most times, change their defensive shape, play with the back four, play with the back three. I'm sure a lot of people would not have noticed that there were times this season Man United played with two at the back, two at the back.
Yeah, I think we noticed some games, but we can keep on talking about their back lineup. But let's move on to Bournemouth, because we haven't really said much about Bournemouth. But Bournemouth, they were a team that also considered a lot, but a team that is sitting comfortably almost at the bottom of the table. What do you think about their performance? Because they were able to transition very well. After conceding a goal, they were able to transition immediately. It seems like the plan that they came with was, okay, we have nothing to lose. If we do not attack, we are going to lose this game. And what do you also think about the team and the way Bournemouth also adjusted to Manchester United's style of play?
Well, I think first of all, Bournemouth fans will sue you for saying that they are comfortable sitting in 13th place. I'm sure their fans are going to sue you. Their fans will sue you for that, because last season this was a Bournemouth side that almost finished in an European spot.
Yes.
But this season they really struggled. In fact, yesterday made it 7 straight games without a victory for them. So coming into that game against Man United, it was a case of do or die. Either we are getting all 3 points or we are walking away with 1 point. But you see, losing will not be in the compensation. And I think they really did a good job. Now let's go to that game they played against Chelsea. Talking about Bournemouth, their last game where they played a goalless draw against Chelsea. They created loads of chances in that game against Chelsea. In fact, people thought that they would win despite Chelsea, having all of the ball possession. They had more chances in that game than Chelsea, but they couldn't convert. They couldn't find the back of the net. And then you talk about the loss. They had against Everton. The Jack Grealish goal was what made them lost the game. That one, they were out of ideas. They had all of the possession, but they just couldn't create. They just couldn't create chances at all. They couldn't create chances. So I think what Anthony Raiola decided to do against Man United was, instead of playing conservative football, instead of trying to be tactical about it, he just said, you know what, let's leave tactical football aside. Let's just go there and rain attack on them. Let's go there full high press on Man United, because he knows that Man United will crack under pressure. Everyone knows Man United will crack under pressure, and Bournemouth took a very, very good advantage of that yesterday.
Okay.
And it was very evident with the way they were pressing from the side of the game, and even the way they defended against Man United, especially in those counter-attacking situations. There were times where United players would line up to take a shot, and then the next thing you see Bournemouth body, just putting himself on the way trying to block everything out. So it was a very, very intentional display by Bournemouth, and the way Anthony Raiola set up his side against Man United, it was a case of, you know what, they're going to exploit this Man United side. You know that their midfield has issues. We have a lot of tired legs there. Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes will always be drifted out of positions, and then we can have a chance at that defense. You know, and it
But
wasn't help.
I wanted to take note of is I like Andoni Iraola's style of play, because if you really look at it, I think they lost some players from last season, and actually this season they have a lot of players that have been inconsistent. Players like Dominic Solanke, Justin Kluivert. They're players that have been inconsistent, and players that are actually meant to take this team on their back. But I think one thing we need to take note of moving forward in the Premier League is that this is anybody's Premier League. But like you mentioned earlier, before was I think you said something like the worst person you should have following you at the top of the table for a team like Arsenal is Man City. But I think Chelsea is also a team that has a way to actually take the season as well. We also have teams like Aston Villa there. We have teams like Crystal Palace. But what is your opinion? Now we are about to go on a kind of break very soon, international break. But what is your opinion? What do you think? Do you think that Arsenal can still maintain the top of the table moving forward with the way they've been playing?
Well, with what I saw against Wolves, I don't know. It's mixed feelings. Yes. Why do I say it's mixed feelings? Because against Wolves they were very poor. Arsenal was poor against Wolves. But in as much as they were poor, they managed to get all 3 points, and that is how. If you want to win the league, regardless of the performance, either you put up a poor performance or a good performance, just get all 3 points. So as long as Arsenal can keep doing that, I'm sure the league can still be within their grasp. But then they have to be wary about Manchester City, who all of a sudden have picked up form, and now they are scoring goals like it's no man's business. Their next game, Arsenal, is against an Everton side that look like they are resurgent, while Manchester City, their next game is against West Ham United. For Chelsea, I don't really think Chelsea is in the conversation for the title.
Okay.
Let's see the performance. Let's see the performance they put up against Newcastle on Saturday, and then we can now consider. We can now talk of considering them. But I think the 2 obvious ones, of course, has to be Manchester City and Arsenal. Okay. But then Arsenal this season, of course, they are definitely in that race. Arsenal has a very good chance. As long as they keep performing consistently, I don't see any reason why they cannot go on to the league.
Well, I for one, I'll put Manchester City ahead of them by the end of the season. But there's still a lot of time for either team to take it all. But well, thank you so much, Wisdom, for your in-depth analysis here on our sports show. It's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, Tom. Thank you so much for doing this.
Fantastic. Now we're moving on to our last segment of the program, and that segment is our Athlete of the Day segment. Our Athlete of the Day is none other. Oluwatobiloba Ayomide Toby Amusan, one of Nigeria's greatest sporting icons and a global force in athletics. Born on April 23rd, 1997, Toby Amusan rose from humble beginnings to rewrite history in the 100-meter hurdles. She announced herself to the world in 2022 when she became the first Nigerian ever to win a World Championship gold medal in athletics. On that historic night in Eugene, Oregon, Amusan shattered the world record, clocking an incredible 12.12 seconds in the semi-final, a record that still stands today. She followed that up with a dominant run in the final, confirming her status as the queen of the hurdles. Toby is also the reigning Commonwealth and African champion, a 2-time African Game champion, and a 3-time Diamond League champion, having won the prestigious title back-to-back in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Her consistency at the highest level separates her from the rest. Beyond the medals, The records Toby Amusa represents belief, discipline, and Nigerian excellence on the world stage. She didn't just break records, she broke barriers, inspiring a new generation of African athletes to dream bigger. Today we celebrate her not just for what she has achieved, but for what she continues to represent: resilience, pride, and global dominance. That is why Toby Amusa is our athlete of the day. Well, we've come to the end of P&B Sports Show. For more insights on our sport, follow us on all our social media platforms. On YouTube at Politics&BusinessTV.English, Facebook at Politics&BusinessTV.English, Instagram at P&BTV_English, and on X, formerly Twitter, at P&BTV_ENG. What a night it was at Old Trafford. It was a goal fiesta. 8 goals, 3 leads shaking off, and a point that felt like both a win and a loss at the same time. Well, that's all from P&B Sports. For myself and our entire team, it's bye for now.